What's up, Magical Misfits? Drew here, and today I am talking about boundaries and wards. And of course, as always, it is told from my perspective, my understanding, and my experience. The main reasons that I use boundaries or wards is usually for protection, defensive magic of some kind, which falls under protection, or even to create a certain energy within a space. I personally use boundaries for either a person, place, or even a thing. With regards to the individual, a person, I would typically use a boundary or a ward for protecting myself or another individual from people who try to walk all over us, or even who come in and sort of sap our energy, if you've heard the term energy vampire, energetic vampire, that kind of thing, to protect myself or someone else in our energy field. When it comes to a place, I typically use boundaries and wards to keep something out. Keep out energy that I don't want, that's disharmonious to me, to keep out entities, even people. Anything that is unpleasant to me that I don't want in my environment. And of course, if that energy already exists in that environment, let's say it's a workplace situation and there's already this energy that I'm trying to ward, create a boundary against, I may do a releasing or a clearing beforehand. I personally don't typically put boundaries or wards on items, but I could see how it could come in handy. If, for instance, I were going to lend something out, or more likely I might be going to some kind of retreat or class or lecture or something, and maybe be asked to bring a crystal, something of that nature, I may put some sort of protection on it, put some sort of boundary, some sort of ward on the item. Of course, there are tons of ways of creating wards and boundaries. One of my favorite go-tos would be gridding. When we first moved into this home, it was in the month of October, just before Samhain, I think like a week before Samhain. We gridded the four corners of the property, and we used particular crystals for that. We used clear quartz, selenite, and black tourmaline personally. All those stones are excellent for creating energetic boundaries and wards, particularly for spaces, but even for a person. Also, I would say that tiger's eye is a great stone for creating boundaries around an individual, a person. They're very protective. But of course, when we say gridding, for the vast majority of us, and I'm including myself in that, the first thing we're going to think of is crystals, but that's not the only way to grid. You could use crystals, herbs, symbols, jars, protective amulets. You can use all kinds of things for gridding. For example, I think it was last year or the year before, my husband and I decided to add another ward to the property. And for this one, we went out on the four cardinal directions of the property, the edge of the property, and we buried these little sachets that I made. They were in like little cotton bags. I put stones in there. I put rose quartz and amethyst, and I can't remember, but I put certain particular stones in there for creating a certain not only protective, but trying to create the energy that we wanted in our space on our property with different stones, different herbs. I work with angels, so I drew angelic symbols on the bags, and then we took them out and buried them in the four cardinal directions of the property. So when we grid, we can use anything that has an energetic signature, which is everything. And anything that feels powerful or protective to us as individuals. Don't limit yourself. And some people don't like to bury crystals back in the ground. They want to keep them. So it's whatever you want. Another great way of creating wards and boundaries is visualization. For instance, I just talked about the four cardinal directions ward grid that we did. And afterwards, I do a visualization. Again, I'm working with the archangels, and so I visualize them at the four cardinal directions, each direction that I associate them with, and the symbol on each bag matched that angel, that it was their angelic symbol. But I visualized angels, which they're like, at least 40, 50 feet tall, just standing, these ethereal beings on my property line at the 4 cardinal directions. Another one that I love for a personal boundary when it comes to visualization, if someone is encroaching in my space and making me uncomfortable, whether they're actually in my physical space or just my energetic space, and it's just not a good thing, I like to envision sort of this energy field that it's like a porcupine. These quills of energy come out from me, and they are very abrasive and sharp and not nice. And to me, that's a very powerful visualization. This energy of back off comes on. Of course, casting circle is a perfect, beautiful way of creating a protective boundary, a space. I mentioned crystals, some of the best being black tourmaline, clear quartz, and tiger eye. Spellwork is another excellent way of creating boundaries and wards. Working with herbs. Angelica, dragon's blood, and cypress are great for this purpose. I also like to make powders and certain concoctions, mixtures of different herbs and different things, and use those. I used to make one called 3P. I don't really make that one anymore. Now I make what I call doorstop dust, which actually I plan on doing my video for next Friday on filming myself making some more, but we'll see what happens with the whole hurricane thing, but that's my intention. Skunk and stink bug come to mind, but porcupine, there are all kinds of animals that we can energetically work with. We can logically, intentionally learn from and become better at setting boundaries and creating boundaries for ourselves and our energy and our properties and what have you. Now, wards and boundaries can be either temporary or they can be permanent. Temporary, of course, you set it and then you clear it up. Whatever you use, however you do that, just like casting circle and then opening the circle. With a permanent ward, it's a bit different. For instance, the wards around my property, both of them that I talked about, the boundaries that I've set, are permanent. But I personally go out at least once a year and recharge those wards. Now, if I lived in an area that was less pleasant than the one I live in, my neighborhood is very calm, it's very nice, it's a very good neighborhood. If I lived in a not so nice neighborhood, I would probably recharge those grids much more regularly. As far as a temporary ward or boundary, and that being around an item, I think that LadyGravedancer was the one who really opened my eyes up to that, because I hadn't really thought of it before. And if any of you watch her, you know she has the videos about her spirited dolls. I will try to remember which video it was in and put a link, but she's got quite a few about her spirited dolls, so we'll see. But at any rate, she talked about how when she smudges her home, she puts all of her spirited dolls in a bubble of protection. She builds a boundary around them and wards them from the smoke because it makes them uncomfortable because they're spirited, and holds them in that until the smudging has dissipated enough that the energy is equalized and they'll be comfortable, and then releases them. So I thought that was a really great example of creating a boundary, warding an item, and being temporary at that. Okay guys, that's about it. Like I said, my intention is to make my doorstop dust next Friday. My house is in shambles, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but I'm really going to try. I really want to. I need to make it anyway. I've been waiting to make it for this video. So as always, thanks for listening, and until next time, much love and gratitude.